Yo, casual wrestling fans. Welcome back to another episode of the Casual Wrestler Podcast, home of the wrestling draft. I am your host, the casual one, Casual Steve. Join with me today, Mr. TJW is in the building. What's up, brother?
It's good, people. Got to shake out those weekly jitters, man. Ready for the show.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Also join with me today,
casual wrestling fans. It's your boy, Mikey C, a.k.a. The Big C, a.k.a. Coach Suits, a.k.a. Stephen A. Slams, a.k.a. the paragon of casual wrestling podcasts. Casual fans, acknowledge me.
Man, I swear, every week, just keep getting longer and longer, bro. I love it, though. I love it.
It's going to be a third of the program.
What was that, TJ?
It's going to be a third of the program.
You're right.
Hey, guys.
Say about episode 21.
Too much sauce, guys. I got too much sauce. It is what it is. But, Steve, you know what's got a lot of sauce?
What's that, bro?
Today's topic is Paragon, top of the food chain.
Yeah, man. Best cities to wrestle in. I love this.
Now, it should be acknowledged that we're not professional wrestlers, but I think that we've been watching this enough, Steve and TJ. Guys, I think this is pretty much the way we're judging this. And again, since the ring general is not here, I think I should just take this. We are going to do a snake-style draft. 4 rounds.
Mm-hmm.
The topic being the best matches, the best cities to have a professional wrestling match in. And in the wild card is the 4th round, which is going to be the worst place to have a professional wrestling match. That's going to be very interesting. I think our answers are going to be very different and very interesting.
And I really want to see that. That's going to be really interesting. Very much so.
Now, Steven, what is the order today?
So order today, Mikey, you drew the big straw here. So you are going to go last, sir. TJ, you are going to go second, and I'm going to kick us off, sir. So round 1, pick number 1. Can we say this is a lock?
Well, I think our East Coast viewers and listeners may be a little butthurt, as the kids say. Not my favorite term, but I think it is. Maybe this is a geography bias, but I'm pretty sure I think I know what you're picking, Steve, because it would have been mine if I picked there.
Listen, man, I feel like there's only one place to hold the biggest match of any show. If you're not having your matches at MSG, Madison Square Garden, New York City, that's the biggest place to have your matches, bro.
Wow! I'm stunned, really. I mean, here it's not a bad pick, but shoot, it's not my pick,
bro. I think this is the place. This is the place where wrestling has grown and has flourished.
You're doing this from a very WWE scope, Steven. TJ, what do you think here, TJ? Is he? Are we in?
I'm from Chicago.
Hey, TJ, is he Vince-plaining us?
I kind of gotta agree that, like, again, to get off of the subject. I mean, it's something about playing, like being in the Garden, that just brings out the showstopper in people. Not to steal from Shawn Michaels, but hey, like, you really want to put on a show in front, you really want to put on a show when you're in front of that New York crowd in Madison Square Garden. It's a different animal.
Well, here's the thing. Shout out to the ring general again, by the way, Josh B. I wish he was here. He'd be backing me up here. You're viewing, and again, let me stop for a second. Of course, Madison Square Garden is Madison Square Garden. It is the Mecca. It is, the place where some of the most famous matches of all time have taken place.
Mm-hmm.
I also think that it just so happens that WWE is a New York territory, and Vince McMahon, who rules sports entertainment / professional wrestling, sees the Garden as the Mecca and the place. So I think, again, you're seeing, to me, through the scope of New York City. However, I will argue they don't run New York City anymore. They run Brooklyn. So to me, current day, it's not number one because they don't run the Garden anymore. They run in Brooklyn and they run in New Jersey. That's my argument. The Garden is the Garden.
What? And you know what? And you know what? I'll give you that. But I think because of the lineage and the legacy of multiple different programs that all clamored to get to the Garden, I think it still holds a special place in every wrestler's, in book of this is where I want to wrestle.
Every wrestler grows up wanting to wrestle in Madison Square Garden. When I wrestled for my brief period of time in the early 2000s, I dreamed of wrestling in Madison Square Garden. Everybody does. But that's Madison Square Garden. Madison Square Garden isn't cheering for the people. It's and by the way, that was almost 22 years ago at this point. Things have changed a lot, and the Garden's the Garden.
Very true. Very true.
But I don't want to pick for anybody else. I'll just say this. I'm not dunking on Madison Square Garden. The Garden is the Garden, as they say. Vinny, the Garden's the Garden. Vince McMahon Sr. said that, and it's still true. It's a first-round pick, Steve. I'm just saying, I don't think it's one.
You know what? And you know what? TJ may end up telling us exactly which one is number one with his next pick in round one. Where are we going, sir?
Yeah, we're staying on the East Coast, man. I can't ignore it. I can't ignore Philly. I can't ignore Philly. So we take it to Philadelphia, Pennsylvania.
This is freaking bizarre, world. You guys are nuts.
Man, I know what my pick would have been, but again,
awesome. Again, I'm not saying Philly is bad. I love Phil. I'm an Eagles fan, for Christ's sakes. I freaking love Philly. You know what, TJ? I'm sorry. I'm stepping out. I'm sorry. Suits is coming in hot today. Suits is hot today. I apologize. Make your point, TJ.
No, but as a former ECW fan, that original ECW, seeing those Philadelphia crowds in those bingo halls, I mean, come on. You expect a crowd to get loud and, something like Madison Square Garden where you got 30, 40,000 strong. You're playing in front of a bingo hall in Philly and it's a few hundred people. And there's more energy there than some of these large venues. I'm not going to call out any names for their lack of energy when those shows are on. But Philly, come on now.
Great pick. It's a first-round pick. I think the first round is going in the order is right. The first round is going to be the right order, in my opinion, or the right three cities. It's just not the order I think they're in.
Order. In the right.
Philly, what I think you're saying, Tej, and I agree with you, is it's a very male-dominated crowd. Like there's like that. They used to say back in the day, Texas would have the chick pop, the loud screech, the This is a bro crowd. Philly's a bro crowd.
Definitely. I mean, you get a lot from that crowd. You get a lot, and I think it's one of those crowds where, just like Madison Square Garden, and just like a few other places that we can name, I think if you don't do well there, the crowd's definitely going to let you know. This is one of these. I feel, at least, Mikey, I feel like your pick is going to kind of definitely make sure that we kind of solidify these three cities as being the top three cities to wrestle in, and you better be doing well in those three cities. But Philadelphia, definitely, especially with the ECW crowd, like they demand a good match, and you will give them a good match, or they will definitely make sure that they let you know you did not perform tonight.
It's specifically why, Steve, I can't put it ahead of the other twos, in front of the other two, because listen, Philly, they'll let you hear it, man. I think that New York demands a lot of respect from its performers, and the real answer is, I think, the most forgiving, because I think we love wrestling in Chicago more than anywhere else. Mm-hmm. You know what, Steve? I'm just taking my pick now. the greatest wrestling city in the world has always been Chicago, Illinois. It's just we don't get the love the other two get because we're in the Midwest and we're humble. We got big shoulders here. It snows and like we don't complain about it. And we got good pizza, but it's thin. Everybody thinks it's like that thick pie stuff, and it is, but that's not our pizza either. And we take our wrestling incredibly seriously here. But I think we don't get the love the other two get because we love wrestling so much. We're the most forgiving out of the major cities because we celebrate professional wrestling sports entertainment here. And I think that if you look at the past 10 years, it's swung. Chicago's always been the town, but now I think it's universally renowned. And I think AEW in the past 3 years has really had a lot to do with that. All Out in the past 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
Or All In, I apologize, really spun it, I think. And I tell you what, if we get that new stadium that they're trying to build here and we get Mania, you'll see it. Even though Mania crowds are kind of always a Mania crowd. But Chicago, to me, if you look at the matches, Austin Hart,
mm-hmm.
Punk Joe, Lucha Brothers versus the Young Bucks in the cage, and the ladder match, by the way, Punk Cena,
mm-hmm.
even Lesnar Cena in Extreme Rules. I mean, there's a list. The list goes on and on and on. Even, dare I say, Triple H John Cena.
Mm-hmm.
Where we actually were very New York that day because John Cena was not going to get shared in that match. I don't care if
it didn't matter.
If Triple H came out in a Brett Favre jersey, I still think it wouldn't have got it done.
You're 100% right. 100% right.
But our pops and all three, by the way, these are the three chalk answers. And I think all three crowds have a unique sound and their own unique love. There is a hardness to Philly. There's an expectation to New York, a standard, if you will. But Chicago, it's love here.
Yes.
We love pro wrestling. We love it.
I totally agree with you on that. And yes, you definitely hit the nail on the head on that. Chicago is a staple, man. It is a staple. No other. I don't feel that there's some forgiving crowds out there, and I think Chicago. This is the only point I'm gonna disagree with you on. I don't know if Chicago is very forgiving because we still will let you know years later you still suck.
No. The forgiving out of the three.
Oh, the most forgiving of the three?
I think the most forgiving of the three. Listen,
I disagree with you on that.
Philly has no give at all.
Philly has no give, but I think Chicago is even less forgiving when it comes to like certain. Well, you know what? I take that back. I'll give you that. Philly number 1, Chicago 2, and then Madison Square Garden being 3.
I hear it, and again, I think we're splitting hairs here, but I think Chicago fans just kind of understand. I think we're smarter here. I just think we have the smartest fans. We have smart fans here. We understand that it's not we don't kill the worker for how bad the gimmick is. We kill the gimmick, if that makes sense.
That makes total sense.
New York and Philly will just burn the house down. They don't care. We don't hijack the show here.
True.
You know what I mean? There's no beach balls in Chicago.
True that. True.
The fans respect the craft too much, and that's why I think we're the best. Case in point, too. I will also say it's incredibly. It's not a coincidence that New York has a Garden. We have the Allstate Arena, which Steve Austin, Bret Hart, legends of the game, Hulk Hogan have said that is the best arena because of the acoustics. It's loud in there. It is so loud. And I was at the United Center for the first dance with CM Punk when he came out, and it was the loudest it's the loudest thing I've ever heard in my life. I think I would have went deaf if that was in the Allstate Arena.
Oh, absolutely.
Because the sound had nowhere to go. The sound would have had nowhere to go.
Yeah.
we all would have like been deaf afterwards, and more deaf than I already am. But I think Chicago is number one. Again, shouts to New York and Philly. No disrespect. It's those three cities without a question.
And when we talk about wrestling, you know, those are usually the staples when we talk about professional wrestling. When those are the cities, those are the towns. Mikey, take us to round two, man. Where are we going, sir? For the top of round two.
I'm going to throw a curveball here. And I think that this may be, and again, this is a very subjective list, as a lot of these lists are going to be on here on the Casual Wrestler podcast. But if you're asking me, hey, where do you want to watch a match from? I have an odd answer. I'm going Toronto.
Ooh, nice.
And it's for the exact opposite reason of the other cities we just mentioned. Even though they love wrestling, and believe me, the Canadians love professional wrestling, and great Canadian professional wrestling is a staple of the industry. But Canadian fans just do whatever they want. And to me, there's no place to watch. There is no better place to watch a bad match than one coming from Toronto, because you just don't know what they're going to do.
True.
It is a complete, and here they might just crap on a good match because they want to. Like, to me, it's such a wild card, and maybe not. And again, I harken back to Rock Hogan and that crowd. Not saying it wouldn't have been like that here, and it wouldn't have been like that in New York or Philly, but that crowd deserves the respect because of they brought that match up a level, in my opinion. Toronto is my first pick of the second round.
I agree. I can't say anything bad about Toronto, man. Again, you got some great wrestling fans in Toronto that, again, they are a little bit more forgiving. But they care about the product, right? They care about the actual wrestling itself. Like, they're not really big into the gimmicks. At least it seems, right? It looks like they're more so they want to see the actual wrestling.
Well, they took on the character of Bret Hart and Owen Hart, and the technician side, Stampede Wrestling. I mean, TJ, am I crazy?
Oh yeah.
It just seems to me, TJ, that you better put some sweet graps on if you're in Toronto.
Yeah. So you're in the area of the Hart Foundation, like in the dungeon. You got to be able to put on a wrestling show if you're going to be in Toronto. Got to.
I don't think you could walk out of the back as a plumber and get over in Toronto. I just don't think it's going to happen.
I mean, the Godwins wouldn't get over in Toronto?
Were the Godwins plumber, or were they just hillbillies?
Farmers.
T.L. Hopper was the wrestling plumber. I'm just saying. I shout out to T.L. Hopper. Don't know what he's doing now. If he's passed, I apologize. And if he's alive, great. You don't know from that era.
Right.
I think we should fact check that after TJ's next pick.
Exactly.
TJ, see if T.L. Hopper's still alive, please.
While you're looking it up, take your round two second pick, sir.
Hey, Steve, talk about burying somebody.
Right.
Wow. Okay, moving on. I like Houston, Texas as a pick for me. You know, you got to see matches like Shawn Michaels versus The Undertaker at WrestleMania 25. The crowd was energetic for that match. You got people like hometown Booker T. Like, doesn't the crowd always go nuts for Booker T anytime he shows up in Houston? It's something like really energetic. I'm not talking like Madison Square Garden energetic, but still energetic.
Well, and TJ, I mean, I would be remiss if we didn't mention, I mean, Rock Austin 17. I mean, like the most important wrestling match, the most popular wrestling match of all time. And I'm sure we'll get into that in a later pod, but I mean, WrestleMania 17, that audience was next level.
On fire, bro. They were on fire.
I think it's a great pick. Houston wrestling, man. A lot of people
just talked about Texas being one of the places where you got some good wrestlers from there. You know, again, that's where your hardcore the hardcore essence comes from?
I think too the lineage. It's not to be. You cannot not talk about the lineage of these places. Even Chicago, we had Bruiser Crusher. New York, the WWF. No, I didn't stutter there. There's an extra W there.
Yeah, that's
back
true.
in the day. And of course, Texas, the Funks, the Von Erichs. I mean, you cannot write the Bible of professional wrestling without mentioning Texas and without mentioning Dallas and Houston. And I think in the state of Texas, in our humble opinion, because I agree with TJ, I think this is the order that it goes in the top 10. I give Houston the nod over Dallas because maybe it's because they've just had bigger matches, and they have the history. But I just think that the lineage gives it that extra bump, in my opinion.
Yeah,
Steve, you get two.
Before we move on.
Oh yes.
T.L. Hopper is still alive. He's listed at age 62.
Woo. Wow. Well, guys, I avoid cancellation for at least another week.
There you go, man. There you go. Listen, man, closing out round 2, I got to pick that we've had a lot of great matches in this place. We've had, again, a crowd that will tell you if this is good or bad. And I'm taking it to Beantown, yo.
Beantown is nuts, man.
Boston, bro. Gotta go Boston, yo. Again, another place where you will be told if this match is trash. You're going to hear it from the crowd. They're loud, they're vocal. They will let you know, just like a lot of these other places that we just named as well. They love their wrestling.
True. Just ex John Cena, hometown boy. How many times has he been booed in Boston?
Yeah, man.
While he was the fan favorite?
Well, John did that to himself when he rooted for the Tampa Bay Rays in the playoffs that one year. I mean, listen, he did that to himself. Boston does not play sports polygamy. When you are in Boston, you like Boston teams. Like, I have never met somebody that grew up in Boston that's like, I'm a Padres fan. Listen, it's Celtics, it's Red Sox, it's Bees, wicked smart with those posting hard. And Boston's a great choice. I as a New York Yankees fan, I hope Boston never wins anything in the world ever again. Although, strange enough, I'm actually rooting for the Celtics this series. Shout out Jason Tatum, spin baseline, great game today.
Oh man, he went 8 today.
Dude, it was a great game, Kyrie Irving. But let's stay on the Graps. Boston, I think Boston. Now here, TJ, Steve, if I'm wrong, I just tell me if I'm wrong here. I don't think they've just had the matches. It's not them. It's just they haven't gotten the chance to really. Although one could argue they had one of the most important matches with I believe Mania 14 or Mania 15 was in Boston. Mania 15, I believe, was 14. In Boston. 14. It was Michaels. Yes, because Philly was boys to men. Mm-hmm. 14. I mean, here, Michaels Austin, very important match. I think that they brought it for that. I think it was just. But since then, have they really had a marquee match?
Now you're making me doubt my point, Money.
No. I don't think it's their fault. I think they're a great crowd. I just think that they would be higher on the list if they got the reps that these other towns have gotten. I think Boston is a very union-heavy city. We all know Vince likes to save a buck, because Lord knows he doesn't have enough cash. He's
right.
Hurting. What's he worth? $2.2 billion now? Jesus
Easy.
Christ. God bless America. He's earned it. But I'm just saying that I just think that Boston's been ignored. It's not the fans. The fans are great. It's a great pick. It wouldn't be my pick. But I'm not dissing it. I think it's a great pick. They're great wrestling fans. Absolutely. Ring of Honor's had some great shows there too, actually.
Yes, they have. And you know what, Mike? Now that I'm sitting here thinking about this, I'm really giving this some thought right now. And because I am the host of the Casual Wrestler Podcast and the commissioner of our drafts, I'm going to pull an audible. I'm going to pull Audible. Going into round 3, I'm going to make Boston my pick for round 3. And for round 2, to close out round 2, I'm going to say it's Manhattan. Because the more that I think about it, we've had more marquee matches in Manhattan from some of the smaller promotions. And let's not forget, that was our very first episode of Raw, if I'm not mistaken. Was that in the Hammerstein Ballroom?
I believe it was not the Hammerstein Ballroom.
Or Manhattan Center. Manhattan Center.
It was the Manhattan Center. It was the Manhattan Center. I mean, again, to me, it's splitting hairs, right? Because New York City, Manhattan, and again, Brooklyn, even, which is still on the board, shockingly. But Brooklyn is kind of like the newer guy, and we all know it's the arena. It's the it's the New York shell game, right? But Manhattan is on this list the same way. If TJ doesn't pick my city that I'm picking, the nostalgia of it. Some great matches took place in freaking Manhattan. It's a great pick.
A lot of great Ring of Honor matches that happened there.
You cannot ignore its history. And again, pro wrestling is best when it's experienced live and live events and smaller shows. And it's got a lot of history. It's a great pick. It's a great pick.
Look at that. Again, Commish coming through.
I still think you should have picked Brooklyn. I'm just saying.
Well, it is round 3, and it is TJ's turn. So we don't know where he's going. But I will say this. We have not gotten a wild card from him yet. So we don't know where we're going right now. We might go in the Kathmandu. TJ, take us to round 3. Pick number 2, sir. Where we going?
You guys remember it's 4 rounds. It's still time for me to go loose cannon on people. But for my third pick, I'm taking it to the West Coast, man. Bright lights and movie stars. We going L.A.
You like the big lights, huh?
Yeah, man. Yeah. Come on, man. You got to respect the Hollywood Hogan. The Rock went Hollywood. You always see the stars come out when you take it to L.A.
True that.
I'm not gonna say it's the greatest pop when they're out in L.A., but the noteworthy people, quote unquote noteworthy people that are always in the crowd, like it adds something to the event.
You take that away, though. I really can't take that away. It does add something to the event when you have some bigger stars outside of the industry there. But I'm gonna let Mikey C touch this one first because I don't know, man. I'm not a big fan of LA, but I'm not gonna crap on your pick though.
I look at in TJ. I hear it's Los Angeles. It's a top 3 city in North America. There is something inherently like it's almost like to me, the crowds are uneven there because it's just a lot of people travel to LA to see these shows, which means you get great crowds sometimes because it's a lot of like quote unquote pay-per-view crowds, mania crowds to a certain extent. I don't hear, but I can't crap on my own point because when there are people in the stands, like here, when like it's kind of like when you play at the Staples Center and Jack Nicholson's there. It's like you want to ball out in front of Jack. It's the way it is. It's like a rite of passage thing. I just think that I'm not saying that LA's a bad wrestling city because again, you got PWG out there on the West Coast. There's some great wrestling is taking place in LA. It is a great wrestling city. It's just to me, we're talking about crowds, and it's a good crowd. It's a very good crowd. But there's also a reason why they're not running SummerSlam there anymore.
True.
I'm just saying. But it's
pretty penny to run there.
Well, yeah, that's another thing because again, Vince is hurting. So, it's they've had some great matches in LA.
Like that.
Yeah, no crap, right? I mean, great SummerSlams. I mean, SummerSlam was there like 5 years in a row. I mean, I think that was Bryan versus Cena, great match. Punk and Brock on the same crowd. I mean, Staples is Staples, dude, and I completely understand where you're coming from. I just look at I have a lot of cities I could pick. I'm just saying.
Yeah, I was gonna say, Mike, close us out because this is the end of the round 3, where we are talking about best wrestling cities. Before we make our pivot, because you start off our round 4 as worst wrestling cities.
Here's the thing. Before I do that, I'm gonna give a couple honorable mentions because I feel like we have to put a bow on this draft in a certain aspect. So I was going to pick Memphis because Memphis wrestling crowds maybe not now, Steve, but if you remember, Memphis Heat is a thing. You had to fight to get back to the locker room. You had to fight the fans.
True.
All the ladies would stab you. I'm just saying that is, and again, maybe it's the worst place to wrestle. But like back in the day, you cannot tell the story of pro wrestling without picking Memphis, without talking about Memphis. To me.
There's a lot of great indie programs down there, man.
And there's still a lot of great indie stuff going in and out of there. But, but I'm not picking it. It's an honorable mention to me. Another honorable mention I want to mention is freaking Brooklyn, New York. I mean, Brooklyn has basically become the new Madison Square Garden. The Barclays Center.
Brooklyn takeover.
It's the Madison Square Garden for this generation. It's where the true New York crowd is now. It just doesn't, Barclays doesn't roll off the tongue like MSG does.
No.
With that being said, though, while giving the proper respect to those two cities and those two arenas, I'm going across the pond. I'm going to London, England for my pick. It is an absolute shame, although WWE is actually retroactively correcting this by, I heard we are getting a UK pay-per-view. I don't know if it's in London, though. I know there is a pay-per-view that's going to be announced from England, and it's about time. I mean, but not just SummerSlam 92, although that's the main one everyone's going to point to. But has anybody, I mean, Rev Pro, man, are you nuts or what? UK crowds are hot.
They are. They absolutely are. Because they care. They care. We get a different type of energy from everyone overseas, man. Like over the pond, man. Like we get a very different energy, which I don't want to give any picks, anything away for one of my picks, but I'm actually gonna go over the pond as well. But TJ, your thoughts on London, sir?
I feel like oddly it doesn't get as much love. Oddly, like we don't see as many shows, especially when we talk about stateside shows go over. There's a good market over there, and we don't get enough of that crowd over here. Even with NXT UK, it's just there's more of an untapped market over there that we should be hitting.
I think there's a love there because they aren't spoiled like American fans are, because they don't get WWE shows. They don't get here. Tony Khan said, like, the first thing he said is, I want to go to England.
Yeah. I mean, you got to think about it. Again, just that point alone, right? They got a lot of smaller promotions. So I think when they do get a chance to have a really big promotion that actually is there, you get a great showing, and they come out for it.
They draw, and they reciprocate the love shown by the performers in the ring. It's always one of those things. It's a bucket list item that a professional wrestler always says is, if you ever notice, they say, yeah, I want to wrestle in Japan and I want to go wrestle in England. And it's like, it's always the second or third one. So people, I think, kind of tail off. Mm-hmm. But like, I compare their crowds a lot to Chicago crowds. There's a reverence. I think reverence is the word. They revere professional wrestling over there. And I am excited. And I hope that they get a Mania quality card for that UK pay-per-view, because they deserve it. They should honestly get a Mania. I've always had the idea that they should do WrestleMania in 3 different cities again. If we're going to 3 different nights, why can't we do 3 different cities? Because too expensive? Gee, Vince, then just, I don't know, stop laying guys off.
Yeah, that would work, bro. I mean, again,
I don't know.
You do a lot in a weekend. Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, man, could be jam-packed with 4-hour wrestling, 3-hour wrestling shows that could really, really skyrocket.
I mean, could you imagine if they did Takeover, they did Takeover Brooklyn, Mania Night 1 in London, and Mania Night 2 in LA or Chicago?
It'd be nuts, bro. It'd be nuts.
I'm just saying, WrestleMania 3, or I'm sorry, WrestleMania 2 did it.
Yep.
Starrcade did it. This was almost 30, it's over 30 years ago at this point. I think we could figure it out now.
It's possible. We got enough TV time to figure it out for sure.
I'm just saying.
They pulled off a SmackDown taping, didn't they?
Yeah. I mean, here, they've taped shows there. It's just here. It's time. I get it. The time difference stinks. But you know what? People watch the Saudi shows.
That's true. That's very true.
I mean, I don't think anybody wants to, but they do.
And that is even more true than your last statement.
Which, I mean, it is what it is, guys, as they say. But I really think that we're going to see a lot more. I think, especially from the WWE side, I think they finally, with the success of NXT UK, I really believe that we're going to see London get their just due going forward, as long as another global pandemic doesn't ravage the world.
It's coming, bro. It's coming. It's definitely coming. I mean, we're going to see it, because again, that crowd is red hot when you've got some quality wrestlers in the ring, bro. They're definitely red hot. Mikey, round 4, worst city to wrestle in. Now, again, we all know this list that we're putting together right now is very subjective. So, again, what is your pick, sir, for the worst city to wrestle in?
The worst city to wrestle in. Again, Steve, it is subjective. I'm just going to say it right now. Here, if it's bad sports entertainment, nobody here, if you're not good, you don't want to wrestle in Philly, Steve.
I agree.
I think they are the hardest fans to please. I think that and ask Roman Reigns, they absolutely crapped on his moment. Here, they crapped on The Rock, Steve. TJ, they crapped on The Rock.
And we just said that man is in the top 3 of the coolest wrestlers of all time, man.
You know who's not cool though? Hulk Hogan. Anyway, I'm just saying, it's also just a drive-by on the Hulkster, who I love. I love Hulk Hogan. He's not cool.
He's getting buried for 2 weeks on this podcast.
I just look at it like this. It's one of the best places to work if you're great, but if you don't cut the mustard, you don't want to wrestle in Philly, because they will not give you a break if you don't arm drag properly. They're on you. To me, I would want no part of that, because even if you do your job perfectly, at the end of the day, if they don't want to cheer for you, they'll just crap on you.
I gotta agree with you, bro. It's tough to work there.
If you put Okada and Omega in Philly, but Okada was just doing a gimmick that nobody liked, they'd shit on the match. It's very, very volatile is the word I'll use.
I have to agree. TJ, we just picked Philly as the worst city to work in, and that was your number 1 pick in round 1, sir.
Since I don't want it with Philly, I'm gonna say they know what it is, and they keep it honest.
Keep it real, let the kids say.
I might find myself on the East Coast. I don't want no problems.
Exactly. Well, here's a place. TJ, you take us to a city next, sir, because you have the next pick on the worst city to wrestle in.
Man, it's got to be the top city. Some people are gonna like it, but by far, I believe the worst city to end up wrestling in is Suplex City.
You know what? Screw it. I'm counting it.
God.
I'm counting it. It counts. And here though,
commissioner is going to allow that as an actual city. Please explain your answer, TJ.
It's just something so brutal about being a Suplex City. I mean, you go in, you got your hopes up, and then the next thing you're just getting dumped on your head for like 5 minutes straight. You got the crowd cheering for you, get dumped on your head. And then this big angry guy with a ponytail just spins you around off his shoulders and slams you into the mat. It's a horrible city to wrestle in. Suplex City has to be hands down the worst city to wrestle in.
I'm not gonna argue this. I can't argue this one.
This is TJ. This is why they pay the big bucks. It's fantastic. It's an absolute great answer because pro wrestling. It's great to wrestle in every city because pro wrestling's great. But you're right. I don't want to run into the mirror of Suplex City anytime soon. Fantastic answer. Do we want to spend 2 minutes on Brock real quick? When do you think we see Brock again?
I don't know. I think he's busy, fixing all the holes in the roads of Suplex City that he's made. I don't know. Man. I don't think we're gonna see him anytime soon. Right now,
sitting on his ranch somewhere, cowboy hat.
Yeah, man. I think he's.
But there's also the rumor that he might be injured.
That would be a shame, because I'll be honest with you. I think a lot of wrestling fans are truly starting to understand that Brock Lesnar loves professional wrestling, and I think he's an underrated worker. As insane as that sounds, because he really was allowed to dominate like nobody really in our era, in our lifetime. They really let him just kind of become the final boss character until Roman Reigns really ascended to that level. And then, they had him beat Brock, which makes perfect sense. But Brock Lesnar,
Mike Tyson, bro. He was Mike Tyson in Punch Out.
Unbelievable. Great comparison, Steve. But I'll say this. People got to put some respect on Brock Lesnar's name as a worker.
Yeah.
Because it wasn't his job to be a good worker for 3 years. His job was to be the boss, to ascend to a level to where the guy who beats him, it's a big deal when he loses.
Yep.
But every once in a while, when you could play with the formula, like the triple threat match with Cena and Rollins, and AJ Styles, Daniel Bryan, when he sold for both of them, Mysterio, a match I saw in Chicago, when they allowed him to work, he puts guys over. You don't have to win the match to get over. Let's make that clear. Brock Lesnar's a professional. He's one of the best ever. He's probably, in my opinion, the second best big man of all time behind Undertaker.
Ooh, that sounds like a
pod.
That's a pod. That's a pod.
But the mirror Suplex City, yes, I don't want to wrestle in Suplex City anytime soon.
I don't have anything else to rebuttal on this one, man. I'm going to close this round out right now with what I feel is probably not necessarily the worst city to wrestle in, but probably one of the most awkward if you've never wrestled in this city before, because the fans are not your normal, typical casual fans. Hardcore fans or casual fans, a little bit different. And I'm going to take us also over the pond to Tokyo, Japan.
I thought you were going somewhere else. And I'm going to talk about it in honorable mentions. But you're right. If you are an American worker and you don't understand that they clap out there, they don't chant, although they are becoming interesting pick. I like the pick. Again, it's subjective anyway, right?
Right.
And again, we're getting into the minds of being a worker, and I'm used to clamoring for affection and response. And they don't hand it out there.
You're not getting it.
You have to really get them to get it.
Yes.
Now I feel like when they go to WWE shows, they feel the need to be more Americanized. It is a little different, but if you're watching a New Japan show and pretty much any other promotion, you're 100% right. It is. They are on their hands a lot, especially in the beginning of the night.
Oh,
they save it for the stars.
You got to work them. You really have to work them. And that's the thing too. Like, if you're not used to, I mean, they're there to watch the show, right? So they're there. You would be really pissed off if you were in a movie theater and somebody got up every few minutes, and cheering like at the screen. Like you'd be super pissed off. These guys are watching. They're watching a movie. They're watching, a series go on in front of them, and they're appreciating every moment of that. But if you are the worker in the ring, you are listening to crickets right now, and you feel like I'm like this is definitely going to get a pop right now, and then you hear nothing. That might mess up your whole night.
I just think you have to be very attentive. You have to be very confident in your abilities.
You have to be good. You're 100% right. You got
you have to be really good.
You got to be really good. Yeah. You got to be really good. You can't be average over there. You can't be just a flicker and flame, right? You got to be the guy. You got to be one of those guys where if they took you out of that promotion and put you someplace else, you could be a potential guy at that place.
And I want to hear what TJ has to say, but I want to hammer this point home. AJ Styles was the guy in TNA. But if he never goes to Japan, I don't think he becomes the AJ Styles that WWE put on the top of the card.
No, we're going to get a better AJ Styles because the AJ Styles that we had in New Japan was phenomenal.
He was a killer. He became a killer in Japan. He was always a great wrestler. He was always a great entertainer. But there was a level of legitimacy and a level of confidence he got coming out of Japan because he went there, an American wrestler, and with honestly not a gigantic personality either. And those are the guys that they love from America out there. They don't like the black tight, black boots guys from America. If you look at the American professional wrestlers that have worked in Japan, they were monsters and characters. And the reason is because they don't look at us like technicians, like their style. AJ Styles went over there and learned their style, got over as an American, joined the Bullet Club, became the leader of the Bullet Club, and it was just it worked. It's a place where you go to refine your craft and you sink or swim out there. It's a great pick you have to qualify the pick, which you did. I just think that it's a great pick.
Yeah.
Great pick, Steve. Tej, what do you think, babe?
Oh yeah, definitely a great pick. I mean, the rare footage of Hulk Hogan chain wrestling comes out of that same region. Now, I dare any of the listeners to go find that footage. It will honestly have you asking the question, why didn't we get that Hogan stateside?
I'm gonna tell you right now. First listener that finds that clip and can share it with the Casual Wrestler team, we're gonna send them a Casual Wrestler t-shirt.
I like that, Steve. And actually, bonus points if you could find Hulk Hogan wrestling Dusty Rhodes in Japan.
Ooh,
because that happened. I've seen it. I've seen it. It's fantastic. I found it on Daily Motion like 5 years ago.
Don't give them the answer, Mike.
I don't even know if it's there anymore, Steve, because I couldn't find it. So please, if somebody can find it for me, put it in the chat. Send them a shirt.
King, again, Hulk Hogan chain wrestling in Japan, in Tokyo, Japan. You can find that clip. You send it to the Casual Wrestler team. Links are again in the bio. Definitely will send you a Casual Wrestler t-shirt.
Before we go, Steve, I have one honorable mention.
Send it.
It's got to be Jeddah, Saudi Arabia. I mean, there's a chance you don't come home.
That's very true.
I mean, I'm kidding, of course, but it's just like here. We have to mention it because I think throughout this pod, there's been a through line. It's the history of pro wrestling. The fans of Saudi Arabia, of course, I'm totally kidding. They are great fans. They love WWE, but there's a controversy. We're rewriting the history of wrestling because it's always going. It's 365 days.
Mm-hmm.
There's no off season. I'm very interested to see in our lifetime where Saudi Arabia does Jeddah, Saudi Arabia end up on this list in 10 years?
I don't think so, bro. I think here's why. what we've had thus far out of the Saudi Arabia pay-per-views have not been great, bro.
I can't argue that. It's been a lot of house shows. It's basically glorified house shows and millionaires cashing in to become more millionaires, multimillionaires.
True, and that's what I'm saying. I don't feel like they didn't start off on a good foot, right? Every best wrestler city that we just named on this list immediately has a match that you can look at and say, yes, that is the match.
Well, they have they have the Fiend versus Goldberg. Wait, stop. Wait, stop. They have the Brother of Destruction versus God dang it. All right, yeah, you're right. It stinks out there.
Yeah, man, it's pretty bad. Yeah, it's pretty bad.
I just think that they've made a deal, and that's what we're doing now. And I'm just interested again in the fabric. I'm a wrestling historian at heart. I would like to see in the next 10 years the quality of sports entertainment we get from WWE and Saudi Arabia. Their relationship eventually will come to like a contract year. And I'm really interested to see if Vince doubles down. A lot of people have said that WWE's done a lot of good in that country too.
That's probably, man. I mean, they probably have done a lot of, philanthropy work there that has helped out that country immensely. They have not, however, done a great job with the wrestling shows that they put on for that crowd. Mansoor has, apparently, because they are very happy with Mansoor and what he does for the Saudi Arabia crowd. Shout out Mansoor, but other than that, the show.
I was going to say, Steve, I got a confession. I kind of like Mansoor. I'm kind of in.
I wasn't crapping on him, bro. I'm serious.
Okay, good. I'm in on Mansoor. I really am. I think he's a fantastic babyface. I will say the word. He's a fantastic babyface. I don't know how great of a worker he is, like as far as hold for hold, but he really understands how to be a babyface in the modern era, which is much harder, I think, to be a babyface now. But that's a conversation for a different pod, perhaps a loose change. I would like to talk about the heel and face dynamics in the modern era. Maybe we'll do that this week. That's a little tease. Put that comment, like, and subscribe if you'd like to hear that, because I got some thoughts.
Dropping some gems on them before we close out.
Have to keep them waiting, Steve. Have to keep them wanting. Their, Coach Suits delivers. The big C is here for the fans. The big C is for the people. Speaking of which, I'm starving. Happy Easter, everyone. I'm going to go make a frozen pizza after this pod, I think.
Man, you didn't even get any like a home cooked meal, man.
We did brunch today, Steven. We did early brunch. Great. Shout out to Idlewild Country Club. My brother Joe's an avid golfer. We went to his country club. They put out a fantastic spread, but we ate at 1:30.
Oh.
It is 8 o'clock Central Time right now. And
yes.
The big C has a big appetite.
It's time for another meal, bro. That being said, let's not hold you up any further, bro. Let's let you get back to it. I know we gotta let TJW lay it down too. So that said, for us here at the Casual Wrestler Podcast, we'll see you in the next one.